Next up, so our next speakers are Joe Mayanki, and who is the VP of R&D, and Hendrik Krak, who's the developer advocate at Aparavi. Joe spent his career in unstructured data. Previously, he was director of engineering at Simplicity, EMC, and Veritas. He is passionate about getting stuff done, fixing broken things, and forging collaborations. And Hendrik is co-founder of the HALT AI Society in San Francisco. His work spans from developing AI to renewable hardware and fostering community around technology and climate. And I just want to give a plug here because Joe stood up at the end of one of these unstructured data events and announced a job opening, and Hendrik went and they met right here, and now they're working together, and now they're speaking.
Great, thanks for that introduction. All right, let's see. There we go, perfect. Great. All right. Yeah, thanks everyone for being here. This is amazing. I also just recently moved to SF, and I think being here right now at the epicenter of unstructured data is yeah, insane to me. So thanks for listening in. Let's talk a little bit about unstructured data. We really could have not asked for a better introduction than from Anchored, because similar to Anchored, we also think about garbage in, garbage out, or as we like to put it in Munich in our office, similar. We really think that accuracy is really important, and accuracy comes from quality input data. But maybe you're not training your own large language model. Maybe you're just using something like a RAG-enabled chatbot or something in that way. And even then, it's important for you to have the right information and the right data delivered to your chatbot, right? Another really important thing that I want to highlight is privacy. We've been seeing that a lot. I don't know if some of you might listen to the All-in-One podcast. There was an episode a year ago in August 2023 where they were talking about how every enterprise now wants their own intranet ChatGPT that has access to all their personal information, knows something about permissions and privacy. 1 year later, that problem is actually not solved yet. But if you bear with us for this talk, maybe we're going to show you our take on it. Let's quickly talk about the problem space again. I know many of us are working in that space, so you kind of heard this before, but 75 to 80% of enterprise data is unstructured, and the amount is growing at an incredible rate every single year. And we kind of went on that tangent, and we asked companies, why are you not using this? What is the problem? And they came back to us and said, well, we don't really know what we have, and we don't really have the capabilities to manage it all anyways. And then this was first ChatGPT, and now there comes another problem. They want to use AI, but they don't really trust the big open AIs of the world to handle their data securely through API calls. So there's these two big issues, and we at Aparavi, we're trying to help you solve those. So we are trying to create value for you from your unstructured data by never really touching your data. You can basically use anything from your object storage to conventional databases, file systems, whether that's in cloud or on-prem. And we will help you to do these, to discover your data, organize it, and act upon it. For now, we have 4 different solutions that we offer right now, which is Enterprise RAG and Data Prep for AI, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more later on. And then a legal part that helps you in case of a data breach, for example, and data intelligence, and an automation IT piece. But before I dive into that, I want to give my colleague Joe here a chance to talk a little bit more about the core technology itself.
Thanks, Hendrik, and it's really great to be here. I want to first mention Aparavi's been focused on the unstructured data problem kind of in general for the last several years. And only recently we've decided, hey, let's see if we can apply these solutions that we have to understand your data, understand where your risks are, your opportunities, and your waste, and basically funnel that towards your AI project. So we're really speaking to the AI developers out there who are spending some amount of their time trying to find the right data to feed to their AI project. So let me spend a few minutes talking about what the Aparavi platform is. So We start with your data, right? That's the most important thing. We start there. And the key thing about Aparavi is your data never has to move. So you saw earlier, someone was talking about data lakes, data warehouses. You don't have to move your data to get all these benefits. It stays exactly where it is. So the other key aspect of Aparavi is you deploy it within your own environment. So this paradox of having to send your unknown unstructured data to some cloud provider to then learn about whether it was too sensitive to send to that cloud provider is kind of ironic. And we want to help you avoid that by just getting all that intelligence yourself. You don't have to send it anywhere, not even to Aparavi. It stays in your environment. We have a very distributed architecture, so you don't have to manage a server farm. You deploy our application everywhere where you have this unstructured data. You segment out that data space, and you deploy our application. And this also means distributed metadata, distributed index, distributed vector store. It's all manageable because it's not huge. Of course, then you have to ingest that information into these nodes. And I just want to point out, we support over 1,000 different file types. We have fast and accurate OCR to do image text out of images. We're always talking about text here. So anyway, you're able to actually view this insight and do all of the features of Aparavi at the highest level in your organization, so you can actually see trends. You can make big decisions on what you have, where your risks are, where you can drill all the way down to the individual node, individual file, individual embedding even. So this aggregation is really powerful. And then we have some other capabilities I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, but the key here is Aparavi is actually a very robust platform that does a lot of things. What we're going to be talking about here today is where we can help you with your AI project. So some of the things we do, which will probably be of interest to you as you start to explore further, the ability to understand the ownership of data and who has access to what, that's going to play into, in the future, multiple users using the same chatbot, asking the same prompt and getting different answers based on their access rights to the source data that fed those embeddings. That's going to be super key for you in the future. We have built-in actions within our platform that allow you to actually act, as Hendrik was saying, on those insights, on those problems that you've identified, right from our platform. So you don't have to go to each of these sources and manually take these actions. You can actually do that right from our platform. And then we have policies that allow you to schedule this and have it running continuously or on a periodic basis so that you stay compliant, that you stay avoiding all that redundant data, that obsolete data. You can basically keep it clean. We talk about clean data. You can actually use this to manage your data so it stays clean all the time. So in summary, your unstructured data stays where it is, and it stays private to you and you alone, or your company and your company alone. And you get the benefits of a lot of the benefits of structured data on your unstructured data, again, without having to move it or change it. So things like being able to query it, search it, do reports on it. You'll obviously learn a lot about your unstructured data, so you'll solve that problem of not knowing what you have, and you can scale for your entire enterprise. And that's key because a lot of times we're seeing that people are still in the POC stage and they're working on small data sets. How do you scale that out to your entire company? So we can help you with that as well on the data side. We're not going to help you necessarily build the app itself, but you can certainly spend a lot less time curating and finding the right data for each of those apps. And we're certainly thinking you're going to build more than one app. So if you can simply write a query to say, I just need this kind of data across my unstructured data for the company, for this app, you could just write a query and you can do this over and over again. It takes all that data prep time down to very, very small. So that's the quick intro to the Aparavi platform. I want to hand it back to Hendrik to get into the details on our AI solution.
Right on. Thanks, Joe. Great. He went a little bit off script because he gets very passionate about this stuff. All right. Our enterprise RAG solution, I think this is the most exciting part to show here for this community. So we built two first applications to feed into your AI projects. One of them is the semantic search retriever, which is providing you with a semantic search API endpoint that you can query against. So basically you walk through the entire data process, data pipeline that we have. It stores the data in our local in-house vector DB, and then you can query against it and feed just the relevant chunks for your query into your project. The other part, if you're already a little bit further along on the journey, you already chose a vector DB, you can choose one of our supported vector DBs like Milvus, for example, and you can feed that data right through the Aparavi data pipeline and then right through into your chosen vector DB. Why did we do this? Well, maybe a quick show of hands. Who of you has built a POC like this before with some of their unstructured data from a file system, cloud system, or anything? Good, I see a couple hands. Yeah, great. All right, amazing. So maybe you can relate to this. What we've seen a lot when we went to conferences like Databricks or different kind of meetups similar to this all around the US, we've seen that people have done this and they've got very excited about it. Most of the time they build really cool POCs and then they show it to their peers, and many of their peers, they like it. And then the peers shows to the boss, and then the boss gets excited about it, and jackpot, they get to build it for the entire enterprise. What then happens is you go on a search. Maybe you want to think about, okay, how I'm going to scale this up, how I'm going to build this to be, helping everyone in the organization. I want to include all the cloud service that we have, the communication, Outlook, Slack, Teams. I want to, of course, tap into the on-prem service. And then as you go along that journey further, you bump into some roadblocks. So you actually have to think about, okay, permissions, who gets access to which data? Is everybody be able to query against all the data? What about HR and whatnot? File types, bunch of file types out there that, you got to figure out how to support that. Multiple cloud providers, fast retrieval, I could go on for some time. And then many people kind of get stuck on that phase. And that's why we started building that first endpoint, because we want to help you on that journey by doing all of that for you so that you can focus on what you really want to do, which is just building a great AI application, right? So the first thing you can do this is through the RAG as a service. That's how we call it. That's the semantic search endpoint that I just talked about. Or the other part is the AI data loader. And let's just give you a quick demo. I think we still have time. So let's tap into that. I'd love to show you how I built this personal assistant bot. Before I start getting into, writing some fancy queries and stuff, I want to show you how I got the right data into that, because that's really the most interesting part, because I think everybody here can spin up a Streamlit bot. So what you see over here is the platform that we have. On the left side, you see what we call like a mimicking enterprise system. So you can kind of see, okay, it's got a OneDrive connected here with some users. We have an Outlook, a bunch of users in there. SharePoint, Azure, heaps of drives on there. You get some information about how much data you put in. You get a PII count, personal identifiable information, for those who didn't know that term before. You get a projection on how much your unstructured data is projected to grow based on that. You got that IT piece that I was talking about a little bit earlier here, some stats on that, when people accessed what, who's got permissions to see what kind of data, and who created that as well from the data owner side. I'm not going to dive too deep into that right now. What I want to do is, since we're here at Milvus, I'm going to show you how you can set up an integration. So these integrations are really key to what we do. We do two things with those. One thing is you can, for example, add an integration to put that into your vector database, so like the Milvus part here. Or you can also, we have other integrations too, relativity server, text output. You can also transfer some of your data, a certain subset. Let's say you have something on a file system and then you want to put it into some OneDrive. That would also be possible with a couple clicks from that platform. So let's go back though. What I want to do is I want to set up the Milvus DB. It's going to call that test for easy use. I'm going to spin that on my local host, put that on that port. I'm just going to call that test again. I'm going to click validate. And now we're praying to the demo gods. All right. It should show up here very quickly. I'll give that a second. All right. So as soon as this initialization process is gone, we will see just the collection itself that has been created within the within the other vector space. Oh, come on. All right. And what we're going to do next then is, once that creation is collected, we're going to choose some of that data. Great, it worked. Some of that data, and we're going to populate that live. So let's do that. I'm going to click submit. Let's go back here. And then if I refresh, I can see it here. Perfect. Great. So what I'm going to do next now is I go into the Actions tab. Oh, hang on. No, definitely I do want to change, save those. Perfect. Handy feature. Great. All right. I'll go to the Actions tab. I'm going to create a new data action. What I can do now is I can do the primary, which is all the source data I see here on the left, and I can apply a transform on top of that. I'm just going to take the test collection that I just created, call that demo. And now it gets really exciting. Now I can actually filter what kind of data I want to populate the vector database with. So I actually go in here. In this case, I'm going to select other properties, and I'm going to go to ownership, and I'm only going to vectorize the data that I own myself on that system, that's me right there. Save. Perfect. I'm going to give that a name too. Test demo. All right. And save action. Yes, okay, great. All right. And now I click on run. Perfect. So if I go back to my dashboard and I click on status, I should be able to see that process. Right. Perfect. So what that's going to do right now is it's going to start populating the collection. As some of you who are working in the space probably know, that really depends on your embedding model, on the data that you feed in. That might take a little bit or might go a lot quicker. So I'm going to use the spare time in between to get started showing you a little bit of what that chatbot is capable of. So for this one, I vectorized a bunch of my personal files as well as my inbox for Outlook. And I'm just going to play a little bit the assistant here, and I'm going to ask him something. Knowing about the type and mic situation, I already spelled this out before, which is great. All right, we're going to paste this here. I'm going to read it to you. I want to go to this awesome unstructured data event. I just happen to forget where and when exactly it's going to take place. Can you please search my Aparavi inbox, because I remember writing an email to my buddy Royce about it. So let's see. Amazing. And there we go. It comes back with all the information. Fortunately enough, I did make it in time to be here. And it also comes back with the source and tells me where it found that, which was my Outlook inbox. That's great. So that's a really useful application, but maybe for some of you, you think, okay, there could be other things that I can do with this as well. And I would agree, because so as Chrissy mentioned, I actually come from a different background, which is electrical engineering. So before coming to San Francisco, I was working at a major corporation doing a lot of programming for embedded systems and some other stuff as well. So when I started my first job, I still remember how painful the process was of just going through all the documentation, finding out all the right and relevant hex codes to kind of speak to those embedded systems. And maybe some of you can relate to that. And what I did to kind of help me out here, since I started working there, was thinking, okay, how about if I would be able to vectorize all that documentation, and let me just go back real quick, and make a chatbot that can me assist with doing that. So what you see here is now I changed the collection to the R&D engineering collection, which is a collection that you will find on this side over here as well. And let's see if that already went somewhere. No. Sure, that's right. That's a good comment. So I built these two data actions also inside this action here. So I can click on there and click edit. And then you see basically these are the two collections that I built before and there. But let's talk about the chatbot. So what I would like to do here now is maybe I am trying to program this new hardware device. And I'm going to say copy, duck, and paste. I'm going to say, hey, I just started this hardware company. At this hardware company, I'm having a hard time programming this embedded system. Can you search our Aparavi knowledge base for documentation on how to configure the start ranging command? A small disclaimer, I recreated this document from memory. The documentation is falsified for demonstration purposes from my previous employer. And it's going to give me a bunch of different sources and talking about this start ranging command, which I can actually find, and it's going to tell me exactly what I need to do based on this beautiful document that I created here. So yes, talking about communication interface, steps to take. Yeah, and yeah, even giving me some example code on how I could address that. So that's something that at least for me at that time would have been very, very helpful. Yeah. Then there's actually one last thing to show. If I look on my class, we still have a little bit of time, which was the semantic and search endpoint that I was talking about. I'm not going to walk through all of this right now, but basically you can find that on an open source library. It'll let you connect to the platform. Once you downloaded that, you can you just got to give it in a couple parameters, like where you're hosting it, might be a local host, user ID, then the store path, which is actually related to this aggregator collector node that Joe was talking about earlier. You'll find that on the top here, and then it just goes down the folder structure wherever you want to find your data. And yeah, then you can just go initialize that, send a query, get a response, and it'll give you back these kind of text chunks where, you know, we have a certain schema that we defined. You get some chunks, you get the semantic relevant result, of course, with the permission ID and so on, a couple other things. Great. All right. Yes, thanks, Joe. Great. All right, let's have a look. No, bad luck. All right, we'll figure this out later. All right, let me finish up here real quick. Of course, you've seen this is a very powerful platform. Hopefully, you're convinced of that. Since we are hosting this on our customer side, it has a heavy footprint. That's just something that we want to make you aware of this if you happen to try it, hopefully later. And this comes with some performance challenges, as well as, since we already started working on this a while ago, the user interface might be a little bit outdated at some point, so we're working on that as well. But with all that being said, we'd be super curious to hear your feedback on it as well. And just to give you a little bit of an idea of what's coming on the roadmap, very soon we have our advanced table handling feature that's basically going to make it able for you to not separate tables by chunks, but recognize tables and feed them in one single point in your vector database. Q&A, chat, local LLMs are coming, enforced file permissions, as well as PII anonymization. So meaning that I can identify PII and anonymize it for you, and you can put that into a text output or wherever you want to put it. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I want to end this talk with an ask for you, since we have been part of this community for quite some time, and we've put a lot of work in this, and we think there's a ton of value in here. So if you're working in the space and you're developing something similar, give it a try. Let us know. We would love to hear what you think about it. And yeah, we appreciate your feedback. And it's free, right? There you go. Okay.
Thank you. Let's see if we have a few questions from the audience. Okay, I see one. And then if we'll hopefully have, if you have more questions, please speak afterwards.
Thank you for the great presentation. Quick question. I saw you ingested a lot of content. What kind of technical resources do you need in terms of GPUs, CPUs, and the entire indexing process and the chatbots, etc.?
Okay, so yeah, we do require some GPU. I mean, it depends on the size of your data, but GPU will definitely make it run faster. We have our recommended specs posted on our help site. So, I mean, it does require GPU, but like, for example, on my MacBook, I have a 18 core GPU. So yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, a follow-up question is, can I host it on a server and host it as an API for other users in other applications?
Okay, great question. So we have a variety of deployment options. So what we showed you on the QR code is our Docker download, which is mainly for Docker desktop, but we also have an application that you can install on any server, Linux or Windows right now. Mac support is also coming, but yes, it actually originally was built to be an enterprise platform running on a server, and we've squeezed it into a Docker image that you can download on a desktop, but it is heavyweight for a desktop. But yes, it's made for a server, and you probably saw in the earlier part when I was talking, this thing can scale out basically infinitely. You can just add another node, another server for another set of data. So yeah, it's made for servers.
Yeah.
how do you guarantee that the data stays private, and how do you handle that layer that it will not be used by the base models?
So what you do with your data is up to you. What we're saying is you can get all of this intelligence, insight, and take action all within your ecosystem behind your firewall. None of that data goes to Aparavi, and you don't have to send it anywhere else. If you choose to use let's say a ChatGPT, for example, you're giving it to someone else. But if you're privacy centric, then you would use a local LLM, not a cloud-based one. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
What languages are supported?
So we're specifically talking about, like, for example, OCR, we support all Latin and Cyrillic languages at this time. Oh, that was over here.
That was a seeded question. Okay, let's yeah, please hang out afterwards. You can speak to them one-on-one, and let's thank our speakers again. Thank you.